What's up, you guys? We're deep into the UFC 317 fight week. I'm sure a lot of you guys can feel the excitement in the air. We recently had a newly added match to the event. So I want to quickly preview a matchup that we're going to have between two very green fighters. They're both undefeated. They're coming over from the regional scenes in Jackson McVey and Christopher Ewert. I'll give you guys my thoughts on where the betting line has opened up and all that. Besides that, you guys know what we're going to be talking about here. I'm going to mention a couple of prop bets that caught my eye throughout the card. And then we're going to cap this thing off with the big long shot parlay. All right, guys. So if you like this kind of content, please smash the like button, guys. If you're new here to the channel, if you're just stopping by for the first time, it would mean a lot to me if you could hit that subscribe. There's a lot of big things on the horizon. And we'll jump right into this thing. I'll just quickly say I have an 8-unit maxer locked in for the event. Okay, and I got a couple other big targets. All right, it's going to be a beautiful night. If you guys are interested in those official plays, you guys know you can email me or shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'll give you further information there. Let's get into the video.
The teller.
In the middleweight division, we have the American Jackson McVey taking on the Chilean Christopher Ewert. Now, Jackson McVey was already announced to be fighting on this card. He was taking a short notice match against Cedricus Dumas. Unfortunately, Dumas was not able to make the walk due to the fact that his ankle monitor won't let him pass the front door. You know what I'm saying? When he's out chilling with the boys, he has to have one leg slip through the front door and the rest of his body hanging on the patio. Okay, that's where he's at right now. So he's not able to fly out to Vegas. All right, they don't want him out in Vegas. And now Ewert had a fight booked in August. It was on Dana White's Contender Series against a recognizable name in Yuri Panfarov. All right, now Jackson McVey didn't have an official bout scheduled to be fighting on DWCS, but I have a feeling he would have been a fighter that would have been featured on this upcoming season. I think that would have eventually unraveled. McVey has been a fun fighter to watch. You could pull up a good amount of his early fights on YouTube, and he definitely has some crafty submission skills. He's also gone out there and showed some flashes with his striking. He's gone out there and starched the opposition twice very quickly. One of them you could pull up on YouTube. I believe it was the James Regina fight that took place over in Shamrock FC, and that was a pretty nasty KO. Here's the thing you have to understand, though. He's been fighting very low-level competition, all right? So when the bell rings, you watch him go out there, okay? He's the big bully, all right? He's the big dude on campus. You could tell, okay? The fighters that he's matched up against, they're in over their heads, and he gets to go in there, and he was able to go in there and kind of play with them and, showcase some of his abilities. But how is he going to look when he gets a little bit of pushback? And that's exactly what you can expect from Ewert, because he seems to be a tough customer. I would say that he's fought a little bit of a higher level of competition over there, especially as of recently over in Fury FC. Not that the competition is much higher, but I would probably notch it a little bit higher. And the thing that you get from Ewert that we've been able to see is that he's gone the distance before. Okay, he's gone much past the first round. He has 2 fights that went to a decision. In his last fight, he went to a decision against Reese Watkins. And you could probably be a little bit more comfortable knowing that in the later rounds, he'll still be there and he'll still be throwing his combinations. And he seems to be a striker that has, if you will, has a little bit more of a technical base. While on the other hand, McVey, it looks good, but it's kind of unorthodox and like herky-jerky, but it's still pretty quick and zappy. There's some potential there, but we got to see what McVey looks like in the later rounds and when someone's actually throwing something back towards his face. Ewert's 31 years old and should be more in his physical prime compared to the younger 26-year-old McVey. McVey also has one less professional fight, but you have to note that McVey has more amateur experience. I wasn't able to pull up any type of amateur fights that Ewert had, so I would actually give the experience advantage to McVey if I really have to pick a side. He's been in there much more times if you add in the amateur fights, almost double. He's creeping up around that 13, 14 marker, somewhere around there. But he's been in the cage more frequently. And his first amateur fight was years before Ewert had that first official bout. So I don't think that Ewert has the advantage that some of you may think when you kind of look at this at first, seeing that he's older and has one more professional fight. Now, one issue I have with backing Ewert here is if you pull up on YouTube, I believe it was the AJ Chambers fight. Okay, he eventually got the knockout at the end of the first round. Okay, but early on in that round, he put himself in vulnerable positions multiple times. He had his back taken. Now, he was chugging along. He was working his way back up to his feet where he eventually found that finish. But I kind of believe that McVey is probably going to be much more dangerous than even Chambers. So if he gets to a position like that, McVey has shown that he will capitalize and he will finish the fight. So I think that McVey is alive to potentially pull off a sub in this fight, or specifically in the first round early on. And that's something you got to keep an eye on if you're backing Ewert. Now, if Ewert's able to avoid that, I probably would lean towards saying Ewert will get the better of this fight in the later rounds, but who knows? Who knows how McVey is going to look? I think that in the first round, as they trade and exchange, I would expect McVey to have a little bit of a striking advantage. I see a little bit more pop and zest on his strikes, but we'll see how this plays out. And let me also note, McVey has a very big frame for this division, okay? He's going to have about a 3-inch reach advantage. He's about 3 inches taller. He's pretty damn big for this division. So, I mean, McVey brings in some real X factors, and I'm excited to see how he looks as his career progresses. And I think some of you guys probably know where I'm going to go with this. I'm taking the dog. I'm going to say McVey gets another early submission here. Takes all that confidence from beating up on those lower level fighters. He's going to bring it right into this fight. And Ewert starts off a little slow, and he's actually very slow. I don't know if I mentioned that. I want to say that too. He's very slow. All right. A little bit more technical with his striking, and he'll chug along, but very slow with his striking. And if he goes out there and he's lethargic and it takes him a while to get that engine running, I could see McVey capitalizing and putting himself in a position where he can maybe sink in a rear naked choke or some type of darce or guillotine. He snaps something on, and Ewert thinks he's going to roll out of it and work his way out of it slowly, but eventually it locks on so tight that he has to tap. That's going to be my call there. Regardless, I think the value's definitely on the underdog, because we don't know how McVey is going to look in the later rounds, but maybe he goes out there and looks just fine. Maybe he looks just as good as he's looking in the first round, and he could sneak out some rounds there. And it's not like Ewert's looking dominant in the later rounds, and this is a fighter that's just shocking us and looking amazing. He's a blue chip prospect. There's none of that really going on, in my opinion. So I think this is a very close fight, and I think that you're better off betting on the underdog here. We don't know how this fight's going to play out until we see it. To the co-main event, Alexandre Pantosia takes on Kai Kara-France. This is a rematch, of course. They did fight on The Ultimate Fighter back in the day. That fight just went 2 rounds. Kai Kara-France has been making some noise with the way that he goes out there and pulls the knockout off in the flyweight division. That's very rare. You don't see that typically, and I think that's part of the reason why he's kind of got put on the fast track to get this title shot. Of course, the UFC gave him credit for the Amir Albalzi win. That's essentially what happened. There's no question about that. Before that, he was finished against Brandon Moreno. Now, you take a look at his knockout victories. He did land a big one on Steve Erceg. Got to be impressed with the way he went out there and did that. He finished Cody Garbrandt. I don't put too much stock into that. Rogerio Bontorin, a little bit of a lower level fighter as well. I have a hard time seeing him going out there and pulling the knockout off on Pantosia. It's not out of the realm, but I don't see it happening. Okay. Pantosia is going to be looking for his sub. There's no question about that. His striking is not bad either, but I think if he's going to pull off a finish in this fight, he's probably going to get on the back and sink in a rear naked choke or pull something off in that type of fashion. He's coming off that very impressive performance against Kaya Sakura, the way he went out there and dominated. I mean, that was something to recognize. But before that, 3 decision victories in a row. Also had a decision victory over Manel Kopp. This fight to me is looking like a fight that's going to go to the 25-minute marker. I think that, as a lot of you know, I have Pantosia winning the fight. I'm going to say that he wins a decision. I think he wins 4 or 5 rounds. Potentially, it's 3-2 on one of the judges' scorecards or something like that. But I think that this is a fight that will go to the judges' scorecards. Kai Kara-France is very motivated for this fight, and I think he'll be in great shape. So he'll be able to make it to that final bell. But I just don't think that he gets the knockout. And even if somehow he wins the fight, if he starts to land some damage and he snags up more than 2 rounds, if he snags up 3 or 4 and he becomes the new champ, you would still cash in on what we're targeting here, because I'm looking at this fight to go the distance. I think that the co-main event, this flyweight bout, goes the distance. It'll be an exciting one. We've seen these fighters show that they're durable, and we've both seen them recently go 25-minute fights too. We've seen them in the championship rounds, and of course, Kai Kara-France just went 25 minutes with the Egyptian Amir Albalzi. That was a 25-minute fight that went to a split decision there. So I know that he's also been finished up a little bit later in fights. Moreno finished him, and Royval caught him in the sub in the second round, but he made it past the second in that fight with Pantosia the first time, and I think he's a much better version of himself. So that is the target that I like here. Let's jump up to the main event as Topuria jumps up in weight to take on Charles Oliveira here. Topuria is an absolute fight finisher. You take a look at his 16 victories, 14 of them come by way of finish. He's only gone to a decision twice. Okay, he'll knock you out. He'll submit you. Okay, and he'll submit fighters that have grappling skills as well. We've seen him do it, right? Charles Oliveira, in my opinion, the most dangerous offensive grappler. I mean, you take a look at the numbers. I mean, he is the submission kingpin. Really, when he's hitting on all cylinders, he's probably as dangerous as it gets. But he has been vulnerable to not only being KO'd and finished in that fashion, but he's been vulnerable to being submitted, which I've always found so interesting. I know a lot of it was early on in his career, besides the recent Makhachev submission loss. But you look back at, and I'll just mention a lot of his losses because it's so interesting to look at these. I mean, he was finished by Paul Felder, submitted by Ricardo Lamas, submitted by Anthony Pettis, got caught in a guillotine choke. I mean, how is he getting caught in an elementary guillotine choke there? He was submitted by Holloway. That was due to the injury, of course, but he was also knocked out by Cub Swanson, knocked out by Cerrone. He was submitted by Jim Miller. He got caught in that knee bar, okay, early on. So I still think that Oliveira is a fighter that's very vulnerable to being finished, just simply finished, okay, knocked out or submitted. And now he's in there with one of the greatest fight finishers of this era, a fighter that's just 28 years old, and we'll see how far he can push it. I think that Topuria gets him out of there, all right? And I favor Topuria knocking Oliveira out early in this fight, but it is definitely not out of the realm that he puts a beating on Oliveira or even withstands some of the onslaught Oliveira will throw back at him, but eventually Topuria breaks him down, and I wouldn't be shocked if we see an arm triangle choke or some type of submission that Topuria can pull off as we see Oliveira butchered and smashed and beat up. Okay, you know what I'm saying? So he's going to be really hurt, and then he opens himself up for a sub. That's not out of the realm, but I think the knockout's a lot more alive as they trade. I think that he could just starch Oliveira, flatline him, and that will bring us over to the target here. I like the under 2.5. Okay, I don't like the under 1.5. I would rather play it a little bit safer. Go to the under 2.5, which you can catch at -155. There's not a crazy amount of line movement from the 2.5 to the 1.5. I mean, 1.5's at +135. I mean, I guess that's a little bit of a difference there, but I think that it's almost worth just playing it safe and getting that whole other round in your pocket there, because I don't see this fight going past this mark. I don't. I'd be very surprised if this fight makes it to the third round. Now, with my luck on these over-unders, we'll probably get burned with this fight being finished right before the third round starts. All right, boys, buckle in. We're hitting up the long shot parlay. We're looking for something up in the +1000s. Let's see how this shakes out. Let's look for some legs here. And we can go a variety of ways with how we target this. I mean, we're definitely not throwing Jacoby Smith up in the mix. He's -3,000 on FanDuel right now. Boy, is that crazy. Let's see what else we got over here. So we have, I think we got to throw Ilia Topuria in the mix. I know the line is not extremely low, but you can catch him on DraftKings at -425 right now. I just think you guys know what I think he's about to do. So I'm throwing that leg up in the mix. We'll throw Pantosia up in the mix. And let's see, before we start reaching at some of the closer lines, we'll see where we're at. I'm going to throw Gregory Rodriguez up in here. We're going to throw Jose Delgado. That'll push us up to a +319. And we got to make some moves here to get this thing jumping. How about a Joshua Van? And then, that one will get juicy for you right there. I think that's what we'll do. Forget about a +1000. We're creeping up on a +1400. We're creeping up on that as we got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a 6-team parlay. Beneil Dariush and Joshua Van, both of the odds are very close on them, as is the Jose Delgado target. But we needed to get something to jump this up, man. This isn't the type of card where you could really cram together a bunch of favorites, and you're not going to get an extremely high line, as there's some pretty heavy favorites. So I like that. You guys let me know if you're targeting that with me. Maybe you could shave off one of the fighters there, keep it to a 5-team. You could probably still get it right around +1000 if you want to pull off, a race at Pantosia or Topuria or something like that. But that's going to be the long shot parlay. Let's see if that cashes, boys. All right, guys, that's going to wrap this one up. I appreciate you for stopping by. Make sure you're following me on IG, because I'm going to have a lot of content being pumped out leading up to fight night. All right, so make sure you're following me over there. I got it listed below. Reach out to me if you're interested in my official targets, the ones that I'm putting a lot of money behind. Okay, the ones that I feel the most confident in. If you guys want those, reach out to me. I'll give you further information there. And of course, if you sign up through my referral link to Bovada, I'll give you my entire slate for this card for free. All right, guys, signing out. Teller.
The teller. The teller.